Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we'll make a start and other people can just join us when they can. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Bex and for those of you who don't know me, and I work for the Connected Places Catapult in the SME development team. So I am leading on the delivery of the DFT's drones D-TRIG program for 2021, which is very exciting. So just to let you know before we get into the webinar today that the event is being recorded for those colleagues who can't join us. So the link will be available to share on our website afterwards. So let's talk a little bit about what D-TRIG is. The general TRIG idea, the framework, this is our fourth TRIG program that we've delivered for the DFT. This one specifically, obviously, focusing on drone related technology. What we will be doing is awarding funding grants to small businesses to undertake high risk research and feasibility studies into drone technology. The programme is 100% funded. We'll be giving up to £30,000 to enable this R&D. So the great thing about the general TRIG framework and D-TRIG as well is that unlike with traditional research programmes, research innovation funded programs, the Catapult will be here to play a key role in supporting our project teams throughout the project delivery period, providing the key commercial support that will enable the eventual launch of your product or technology or service into the marketplace. So while conducting research and feasibility studies is crucially important, what we'd like to see is an exploitation plan that will take the research into the next phase. And this support is in addition to the support that DFT will be able to provide from a technical and from a policy perspective. So you really can see why TRIG is a very special programme. So why are we here today? So today is all around guiding you, our potential D-TRIG applicants, in scoping and completing your application. And Nick, if you could put the agenda up for me. Lovely, thank you. So you will see that in a moment, I'm going to be passing over to Fozia from the DFT's drones policy team, who will introduce the programme and explain sort of why it's of strategic importance to the DFT at this time. Then I'll be taking you through some key points of the application process itself and some do's and don'ts. Before handing over to some of the technical experts from the Catapult, who will talk you through the programme scope. So in short, there are three sort of themes that encompass this wider programme. There aren't specific challenge areas, which some of you will be used to in other TRIG programmes. So the three themes will have examples within them of the kinds of projects that we're looking for. And the whole programme is built around the facilitation of drones and the facilitation of the integration of drones into UK airspace. So we're not looking for counter drones technology. We want drones to be part of the transport system in the UK, and but we just want to obviously do that safely and within regulation. So that's what this competition is all about. And at the end of the session today, there will be a Q&A. Throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A function, which is located on the bottom of your screen, to ask questions. We will answer as many questions as we possibly can during the event today, but if we don't get around to answering your question, we will gather them up and answer them afterwards. Alternatively, at the very end of the webinar, Nick has put the email address for D-TRIG. So if you do have any specific questions around whether or not your idea is in scope, please feel free to get in touch. Those emails do come directly to me, and I will sort of be able to discuss them in a bit more detail with you. So without further ado, I will hand over to Fozia. So Fozia is the head of the DFT drones policy team, and she will give you a very brief introduction into the D-TRIG program. Thanks, Fozia.
Thanks, Bex. Good morning, everyone. I'm Fozia Chugtai, Head of Drones Regulations and Policy at the Department of Transport. As Bex said, the department wants to encourage safe and secure drone use, and we know that the UK is already a world leader when it comes to innovation in aviation. So we're very pleased to be working with the CPC to award research and development grants for drone technology projects aimed at taking us a step further to being able to safely use drones alongside other air traffic in UK airspace. So I look forward to assessing the applications alongside the Department's Office for Science and the Chief Scientific Advisor, Professor Phil Blythe. So hopefully we'll get lots of good applications in from yourselves. Thank you, and I'll hand you back to Bex to carry on explaining the application process.
Great, lovely. Thanks a lot, Fozia. So let me take you through a few key points regarding logistics of applying to D-TRIG. So as I already mentioned, for this programme, we're offering grants of up to £30,000 for research and early stage feasibility projects. So these would typically fall within TRL 2 to 4. So you have to have some evidence that the basic research has already been undertaken, and you have enough of a sort of a case to actually progress this into creating a proof of concept. So before you begin an application to the D-TRIG programme, please do refer to the supporting documentation that's available on our website. And we will put the website link for you at the end, so you'll be able to access that. There is a few sort of application guidance documents that are really crucial for you. The first one is the application guidance document. So this is your kind of D-TRIG Bible, and it sets out everything that you need to know about the programme, from how to frame your answers and what we're looking for within the application, to how the funding schedule works, IP rights, key dates, deadlines, things like that, and also the arrangements for reporting within the programme. The grant agreement, you might want to have a quick read through that. These are your terms and conditions. So please do read these carefully before you submit your application, and you'll need to indicate on the form that you are happy with these and you agree to abide by these. And finally, the grant specification document. So this document really is key. So this is the one that's going to set out the scope of the competition. So i.e. exactly what Fozia and her team at DFT are looking to fund. Within each theme area, as I've mentioned, we have listed examples of the types of projects we're looking for. And this isn't a complete list. We are looking for, we'd be interested in hearing other ideas that you might have, but they have to fall within the three, one of the three themes that we'll go into in a moment. So when it comes to actually applying, the application form is in Microsoft Word, and it's available on the website. So you just need to download it, complete it, and email it into us. So let's talk about the form itself. We've kind of designed it in a way that we don't want reams and reams and massive amounts of text and information. These are small grants, so we don't want you to spend weeks and weeks filling these out. So let me just go through very briefly what we're looking for. Section 1 is your kind of generic company information, as well as some due diligence. Now, some of the questions are quite involved, and they won't necessarily apply to you around kind of policies and insurances and things. So if you're a pre-revenue company with no employees, you aren't going to have some of these policies. So if they don't apply to you, please don't worry. Just kind of indicate on the form that this does not apply to you. Section 2, this is the main body of the application, and there are 5 key questions that make up section 2. So we're looking for, the first area is the challenge. So what industry challenge are you responding to? What's the current state of play? What about your technology is going to solve a real industry challenge? Innovation, key. Obviously, this is innovation funding. So what makes your technology different, perhaps from other technologies that are out there? It doesn't have to be something that, you know, nobody in the world has ever thought of, and this is the first ever time this has been created. It could be something that has already been applied in another transport area that has worked, and we're applying it to drones for the first time. Project management and team, we need to be reassured that your team is suitably qualified to be able to deliver this project. They have the right technical expertise and experience. Exploitation, again, like I mentioned before, really key. So while we are looking to fund research, we also want to see that you have a good exploitation plan in place, so that when your research comes to an end, what's the next step? This is an enabling fund. It's going to enable the start of a journey. But we want to be able to see that you have a plan in place for where to take it. So have you created industry partnerships? Are you looking for follow-on funding? What's your product roadmap? And this is something that we would like to see, that you have aspirations to put this in place, but we will help you to get you there to the point of sort of when you're getting ready to sort of create prototypes and launch your product. And the fifth area, is around the finances. So there is a simple finance table that we'd like you to complete, outlining all of your project costs, the direct costs only for the project, staffing, equipment, consumables, travel, hopefully, we'll see how that goes, subsistence, anything like that. That is directly attributable to the project itself. On the staffing, you can subcontract. We would expect a daily rate of somewhere in the region of £200 to £300. If it is a lot higher than that, still put it in and we'll look at it. We are unlikely to be able to fund daily rates that are much higher than that. That are much higher than £200 or £300. The finance table must be sort of fully justified, all the costs in there, and there's a space as well for you to be able to explain a bit more about the project costs and why they're really needed. Just a few kind of hints. Please do try to keep within the maximum word counts for each section. Like I said, we're really not looking for war and peace. We're just looking for really succinct, clear answers. Please also write in layman's terms, avoiding acronyms, obscure jargon. If you kind of pitch this at a consumer level, that would be incredibly helpful for when we come to assess these. If we have to, somebody, for example, me, I don't have any technical knowledge of the drone space whatsoever, but I need to be able to read these applications and understand what the impact and innovation and challenge is associated with your project. So finally, the closing date is the 31st of March. That's a Wednesday, and that will be midnight on the 31st. So you have the 31st to kind of get everything last minute in. If you do have any further questions on the application process, you can put them in the Q&A and we can answer them now, or you can email the drones inbox and I will answer them offline. So now I will hand over to my colleague Andrew. So Andrew looks after the Catapult aviation programme, and he will talk us through our first theme within D-TRIG, which is onboard, detect and avoid technology. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks so much indeed. Hi to everyone. I hope you're all well wherever you are today. So we have three technical themes, as Bex has already mentioned to you. They're in no particular order, even though there are 1, 2, and 3. But we'll just give you a quick overview of what we're looking for in this. So this particular theme is looking at onboard, detect, and avoid. Just to make things clear, the definition that we are using for detect and avoid is that provided by the Civil Aviation Authority. That is the capability to see, sense, or detect conflicting traffic or other hazards and take appropriate action. And so we're seeking onboard technology solutions, which include onboard detect and avoid equipment, sensors for detect, and also flight controllers for avoidance. Next Thank you. So detect includes both non-cooperative and cooperative aircraft, obstacles, terrain and weather, and avoidance includes collision avoidance, that's both on the ground and in the air, and also maintaining separation. Next slide, please. So the key areas of focus to include, but obviously not limited to, but what we'd like to see some responses to, please, are looking at sensors to observe and to interpret situational awareness, the processing of sensor data to make real-time decisions, the integration with existing solutions for airspace users, and also remote identification, which includes a network of remote ID. Particularly, we're looking at onboard transmit and receive solutions, and the solutions we're looking for must be for open and specific type of drones, not for the certified type. So we're looking for open and specific type, and they should be scalable solutions, scalable downwards as well as upwards. And the next slide, please. And the secondary challenge is focusing on electronic identification and conspicuity. So this primarily contributes to being detected by other aircraft, which is also intended here as a means to detect other cooperative aircraft. And so that will include identification, position, speed, heading, and altitude. So theme 1 covers both the onboard detect and avoid sensing technology and the management of that knowledge, but also the electronic identification and conspicuity. And that's it. Thanks very much indeed. I'll hand over to Chris.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Yeah, great. So Chris G, I'd like to hand over to Chris now, who's a principal engineer at the Catapult, and Chris will be taking us through our autonomy theme. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Morning. So what do we mean by autonomy? So we're looking for solutions that reduce the need for human intervention in drone operations. So we're looking at both autonomous and automated solutions. So an autonomous drone describes a UAV that can operate without any human intervention. In other words, it can take off, carry out missions, and land completely autonomously. For automated solutions, this is where the pilot or operator have overall control of the drone, but they can actually then transfer certain operations to the drone itself. So, for example, this could be a pilot configuring waypoints in advance of a drone mission. So there are lots of opportunities for drones at the moment, which we can carry out within visual line of sight. However, to unlock the full economic benefits of drones, we need to reduce the amount of input from the operator or remote pilot, and also other human interventions, such as someone loading or unloading a payload. And the more autonomous we're able to make drones, then the greater the efficiencies and cost savings that we can achieve, especially as services and operations scale. Next slide, please. So what I've done here is just put together a few examples of autonomous solutions, and these tend to be enabled by multiple technologies that increase the level of autonomy of the drone for the drone operation. So the first example is unattended solutions. So these are sometimes referred to as drone in a box. So these solutions include technologies such as automated takeoff and landing, self-charging stations, and automatic transfer of data captured. So these solutions are ideal for repetitive activities. An example of that might be construction progress reporting. The next example is drones as a service. So, for example, the ability to book a drone to transport a payload from A to B. The scheduling and planning of the drone is optimized based upon least cost routing algorithms that take into account risk and localized conditions. The next example would be payload transfer. This is sometimes referred to as last inch. So this is the ability to automatically transfer the payload from a drone to a ground-based station to safely and securely receive the payload. This could also apply equally to intermodal transfer, so effectively passing a payload from a drone to a terrestrial robot, or indeed any other type of vehicle. And the final example is swarm management. So this is drones that communicate peer-to-peer and have the ability to dynamically respond to changing environmental conditions. It might be something like a wind gust or unexpected obstacles. and they do this by coordinating across the swarm. Next slide, please. So to build these types of solutions just outlined requires a range of technology to be developed or advanced. And here I'll just walk through quickly some types of technologies that we'd be interested in under the theme of autonomy. So the first example is charging stations. So this is creating autonomous charging ecosystem. So this would be both the infrastructure and the billing and payment mechanisms. So effectively creating the equivalent of the electric car charging network. Flight plan optimization solutions. So calculating the most efficient and safest routes, taking into account ground and air-based risks, and also factors, external factors such as the weather. Operations management systems. As we move to more autonomous drone operations, then we're going to need different types of governance and audit solutions to oversee a fleet of autonomous drones. Flight control systems. So development of onboard flight control systems to manage the decision making and also exception management that might be required for autonomous operations. Peer-to-peer communication, coordination. So these are the types of solutions that manage peer-to-peer communication and coordination between multiple cooperating drones. So as we mentioned, kind of swarm type of operations. Precision landing solutions. So these are required both for one-off and repeatable accurate landings where GPS isn't sufficient enough. Payload transfer solutions. So this is required for managing the transfer of payloads between vehicles or enabling a secure delivery, so there is need for minimal human interaction in the process. As we move to more autonomous solutions as well, we need additional redundancy and fault tolerance. So this could be at either the solution level or individual components such as navigation, flight control systems. And then finally, we have edge processing. So this is the localized processing of onboard data. So this might be flight characteristics, flight dynamic data, inputs from sensors that are on board. And the aim of this is to minimize the dependency on external processing. So this gives a flavor of the types of solutions and technology that we'll be looking for in this theme. Thanks, Bex.
Lovely, thanks so much, Chris. So last but not least, can I invite my colleague Reza? So Reza is a senior technologist at the Catapult, and he's going to talk about the communications theme. Thanks a lot, Reza.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. I'm glad to speak in this event. So I'm going to talk about communication in drones. So in general, drone communication maintains connection between drones and the ground station or drone to drone with adequate data rate for enabling real-time transmission. It can be used for command and control or also for carrying payload as well. So drones mainly, current drones mainly using two frequency bands, which are ISM band 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz. They are typically low data rate, unreliable, insecure, or I would say less secure and vulnerable for interference. But the main issue is with using this ISM band is having very short operating range. Just a quick overview of what we are looking for in this program. So solutions that can provide the following bullet points are more of interest, like extending communication. In other words, solutions that can increase the operation range of drones beyond visual line of sight. So flying range of a drone is determined by the communication control range. There are some technologies that can be used to extend the range, such as increasing power of the transmitters, or using directional antenna with higher gain, or using Wi-Fi repeaters between controller and the drones, or like using other wireless solutions like 5G or 4G. In terms of the redundancy and failover C2 communication, some examples of technologies solutions are like monitoring the availability, quality, and reliability of communication services, used by the redundant systems and automatically switching to the secondary communication link, which has the best quality, such as link with the lower frequencies, like sub-gigahertz, for instance, or 4G. Another option could be using like dual LTE mobile modem or router that connects two or more cellular network. It's recommended that not to use ISM radio bands for redundancy C2 communication, as they are very unreliable. Next option is secure protocols for GCS and GCS to UAV communications. As you know, drones can be hijacked by sending and de-authentication process between the Wi-Fi access point and the drone controllers, such as jamming the intended drone frequencies and diverting to connect to the hacker's Wi-Fi, for instance. For example, Mavlink protocol, which is an open source point-to-point networking protocol, is used to carry telemetry and command and control in many drones, which is considered as not a safe protocol. Therefore, more secure protocols for UAV are needed. The next topic is UAV to UAV mesh communication. A UAV mesh network is an interconnected group of drones that acts as a single network. UAV mesh network can be used in various applications, such as in natural disaster monitoring, for instance. In UAV mesh networks, because of the dynamicity of the network is very high, and existing wireless links can disconnect anytime and new links can establish. This process is very energy consuming, and considering that low power nature of drones, UAV to UAV mesh communication requires more reliable and more energy efficient communication protocols. Few examples of technology solutions for this case can be using of beamforming antenna in UAV mesh network, as you can see in the picture. We are also interested in navigation issues in drones, such as redundancy and failover navigation systems. Current satellite navigation system, because of their very weak signals, they can be easily interfered or jammed. A signal cannot penetrate buildings, and urban canyons may cause inaccuracies. Few examples of secondary navigation systems are using more than one GNSS solutions, like GPS and Galileo, GPS with GLONASS, and so on. Other option could be like vision-based navigation systems, which uses the sensor images to navigate. Inertia navigation system, or INS, like using accelerometer to determine the acceleration of the acceleration, and the gyroscope to determine the angular rotation, for instance. There are also other solutions available, such as Lucata, which is basically a satellite navigation system installed on a series of ground-based towers. Last but not least is precise navigation and landing solutions. Typical accuracy of current GNSS-based devices is about 2 to 3 meters. For mass adaptation of autonomous drones or using charging stations for autonomous drones, as Chris mentioned, we are in need of more precise navigation system with high accuracy in the range of a few centimeters rather than few meters. Such precision may be achieved by integrating IoT-based solution with the current satellite-based solutions. I guess that was all from me. Thanks for listening. I'll hand over to Rebecca. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Reza. Sorry, I was just busy answering some questions in the Q&A. Thank you so much to all of our speakers. That was incredibly helpful. So let's move on to answering some questions in the Q&A if there are any. I've been sort of going through and answering a few of them, sort of typing out the answers. So there was a question on here about from John about whether you should whether applicants can focus on multiple themes or just on one theme. So what I would say on this is we wouldn't want more than one application, which I know is not what you asked, but just on this point. So yeah, you can only apply once, but whether you can focus on different themes or not, it might be a question for Fozia. Fozia, how would you feel about sort of applicants who would like to whose technology could kind of apply across multiple themes?
I think I'm going to have to take this one offline and just check that would be okay, or how we'd go about assessing it or anything. So if it's okay, I can check this offline and come back to you shortly.
Mm-hmm. I would say though that John, when you say is there a greater chance of approval, I wouldn't say there would be a greater chance of approval if the technology is kind of cross theme. It's whether or not it aligns specifically to the interest of the DFT. That's going to give you the greatest chance of the application being approved. Yeah, so John, if you ping an email to the D-TRIG inbox, then I will pass it on to Fozia. Okay, let's do another one. So from Anonymous, are you looking to start at TRL 2 and finish at 4, or somewhere in between? That is a really good question, and having read that, I realized I wasn't as clear as I could have been on the TRL. So to reiterate, D-TRIG is about funding research. So we're not looking for demonstrators, we're not looking for testing or prototype creation or anything like that. We are looking for early stage research. You will struggle anyway to kind of do any of that stuff with only £30,000. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for. So what we would expect, as I mentioned, sort of the basic principles of the technology have been explored and arrived at, and you're at the point of kind of developing your technological concept, like TRL sort of 2. You can, however, so the idea is that the funding will enable you to conduct the research that's going to help you to arrive at a proof of concept. So if you've already got the proof of concept before you start and you're looking for kind of sort of money to test the idea, I suppose that would be okay, as long as there still is an element of research within it. What I would say is don't get too hung up on TRL. It's more about what you can deliver for the £30,000. There has to be an element of research. It's not necessarily about demonstration, as I mentioned, or testing in a large scale operational environment, which, to be honest, you're not going to be able to do for £30,000 anyway. So yeah, don't focus so much on the TRL level. It's more about the idea and whether or not it aligns to the scope. Hope that answered your question. So Nigel says, how can we determine whether our project might be eligible if it doesn't fit in one of the 3 themes? So Nigel, we're not looking for projects that don't fit at all within the 3 themes. However, if you're not sure if the project does fit or not, and you want us to assess it, could you possibly send an email to the D-TRIG inbox with a bit more information about what your idea is, and we will try to we'll sort of come back to you with a yes or no. Okay. So just looking through these. Okay, so there was a question about whether universities can apply. Universities can't be the lead applicant. We are looking for commercially led applications led by commercial companies. However, there's a question here about whether universities can sort of team up with commercial companies, so and sort of make a joint application if it's led by a company. I would say yes. I would say that is quite interesting, unless Fozia or any of my colleagues have a particular objection, I would say yes, that would be fine. Okay, no one's there.
Sorry, just trying to unmute myself. Yeah, no, I think that should be fine. Happy with that.
Yeah, cool. I think, you know, we all know that university business collaborations are have incredible potential, and you know they're incredibly valuable. So yeah, if you do have a sort of consortium of partners, then fine. One of which is a university, then that would be fine. Can local government apply? No, unfortunately not for this this call. Can research centres apply? I would say no. However, I would say no. I might need to get some more information on that. Could Pasquale, could you send an email to remind me to seek further clarification on that, possibly, and I will get back to you on that if that's okay. Wilhelm, are open applications welcome, aka technologies improving the drone space in general, or do they have to directly address one of the themes? I would say they have to directly address one of the themes. However, Fozia, are you happy to receive open applications?
I think it should apply to one of the themes. So I think, I mean, if they maybe explained exactly what they were trying to do, we can have a look at it. But I would imagine that if they're going to make an application, it would be best if it applied to one of the themes. Yeah,
I mean, the themes were created, the themes were arrived at through a lot of thought. There's a big thought process around arriving at these themes, and we sort of run it past the CAA, and they had involvement. So it's taken a lot of work to arrive at these themes. So I would suggest that we'd primarily be interested in technology that kind of applied to those three. But if you do have, you know, a fantastic idea that you would like to explore more, then yeah, please send it in, and we'll certainly look at it. Paul, I'm not even going to attempt to understand this question. I'm really sorry. There was a question by Paul Kennard. Can any of my technical colleagues come in on this one? While I agree with the definition of the DAA problem, are you making any headway with the CAA over the equivalence to a manned platform that the D2A/S2A system must prove? Is there any interest in developing a testing methodology that might start to answer this question? Thank you, Andrew.
Paul, thanks for your question. It's a really good question. For this particular call, we're specifically looking at technologies related to detect and avoid, onboard detect and avoid in particular. For the equivalence argument and also looking at testing methodology, we would probably point you, well, we will point you at the CA innovation team. They're doing a lot of work. In fact, I believe they're going to release shortly their thoughts on detect and avoid and a potential sandbox in that area. So I would point you towards the CA Innovation Hub. If you can't find them on the CA website, if you do get in contact with us, Paul, we can provide you with the web details of that, but not for this particular project. Thank you then.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. That's really helpful. Oh gosh, it's coming in thick and fast now. I'll go at the top again. Will it be possible to get copies of the presentations from the experts? Absolutely, no problem at all. We will do that. Pasquale again, can international partners join the UK SME as partners in the research? I don't see why not, as long as the research, the work has to be completed in the UK. And the lead partner has to be registered in the UK. I'm not sure on this one, unless any of my colleagues have a firm stance on the answer. Come in now. If not, I will seek further clarification. No, okay. In that case, Pasquale, could you possibly send an email to the inbox, and I will follow up separately if that's okay. Chris, you are replying to a Sam's question, which is great. Okay, Andrew, can I bring you back up again? Trevor is asking about CAA laws and regulations on UAV autonomy, or it could be one for Chris. I'm not sure.
I can do that. It's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Trevor, thanks for your question. We are currently working with the current laws and regulations as they currently stand, Trevor. So if we could look at the application around that. However, within your study, research study, if you should identify any potential adaptations or recommendations regarding that, then obviously we're happy to look at that. But I think for the baseline for any of the studies that we have on autonomy or on detect and avoid, we should be current regulations.
Lovely, thank you. Andrew, can I just ask you to stay on a minute? We've got a question from Suja. Hi, Suja. Hope you're well. So she's asking if the test and avoid system can be kind of ground-based infrastructure, or must it be on board the drone?
Suja, hi, nice to see you, or speak to you. We're specifically looking for onboard solutions for this one, Suja. Obviously, we're aware of some of the work that you're doing on ground-based, but specifically looking at onboard solutions.
Great, thank you. And John, so if the university, I assume you're from a university, John, if you're working with an SME, is the application form filled out by the university lead, describing the university as the company? No, what we would ask, please, is the company fills out the application. Once you look at the application, you'll kind of see that the company really does need to fill it out, because we ask a lot of questions about the company. And then what you can do is you can list the university as a collaborator within the project management question of the application form. If you kind of want to discuss that in a bit more detail, John, I'm more than happy to do that. If you just ping an email over, and I will I'll get back to you on that. Cool. And then we have one from Anonymous. I don't believe that the international partners will be receiving funding. Yeah, leave that with me. Once I've established whether or not international partners can be part of the consortium or not, if they're costed in as a resource, then they will receive, funding to pay for their time associated to the project. But yeah, leave that with me. I will answer that. If you could, Anonymous, whoever you are, if you could possibly just, if you could send an email, I will. I'll get back to you. Cool. I think that looks like we are done for the questions. Oh no, Trevor. Oh, Trevor's asking about category of UAVs. Andrew, sorry.
Yeah, Trevor, thanks very much indeed. Yeah, I mentioned in the overview at the beginning, we're looking at open and specific type of UAVs, please.
Fantastic. Cool. I believe that's everything. We are running amazingly to time. Very early, actually, so we'll give you some of your life back, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind and have a few minutes, if you could possibly just complete our Survey Monkey, that would be fantastic, so we can continually monitor the usefulness of these sessions. That'd be great. And just to take away Nick's put on there, if you do have any questions, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to hear from you. In the wider sense, if your technology doesn't quite fit for D-TRIG, but you want to talk to us about it, we'd be more than happy to have a chat with you. And please, please join our network. We've got a really strong SME development network at the Catapult. And our business in general is all about helping small and large businesses and universities to innovate in various areas of